my fist, praying she hadn't seen it yet. "Get behind the bed," Danielle whispered, shoving me behind her. I was swinging at the park when my mom's phone slipped out of my back pocket, and the three biggest bullies snatched it before I could grab it. They've tormented me since kindergarten, and now they dangled it over my head. "Want your mommy's phone back?" One of them pointed across the lot at a group of cops eating from a box of donuts on their car hood. "Then go steal those donuts for us." He rubbed his belly. "Papa's hungry." They whipped out their phones to record me, but I couldn't lose my mom's phone, so my legs shook toward the cops, praying I wouldn't get arrested. I snuck up behind the cop car, close enough to smell the vanilla and chocolate frosting, and my fingers grazed the box, relief flooding over me because this was easy. But then a cop slid it farther down the hood, way out of reach, and my hands started shaking. I looked back, and the bullies were recording and cackling while the whole park stared. Everything in me wanted to run, but my mom worked double shifts for that phone, so I rose onto my toes, sucked in a breath, and grabbed the box. I turned to bolt with a grin, but a huge palm dropped onto my head, stopping me cold. I spun around to a donut-loving cop towering over me, crumbs falling from his lips onto my face. "Are you stealing from a cop, young man?" The other cops crossed their arms behind him. I was frozen, and his hand went to his cuffs. "You're coming with me, son." Tears spilled down my face, because I'd never stolen anything in my life, but I did it for my mom. The bullies howled across the lot, and I dropped my head, sure I was going to jail. The cop marched me across the lot, but when I lifted my head, he'd stopped me right in front of the bullies. I stood there confused, until he pointed at the three of them. "You're all under arrest for theft and bullying." Their laughter died as he snatched the phones from their hands. "And you just filmed yourselves committing a crime. These are evidence now." They started crying, but the cop shushed them. "Now give this boy his phone back before I add robbery to your charges." They shoved my mom's phone into my hands, sobbing, and the cop knelt down to me. "We saw those punks grab your phone and force you over here the whole time." As they got cuffed, a cop handed me a donut. "Papa's hungry," I said.
Payback. That's karma. That's karma at the max level.
I was sitting next to the fire with my friend Dean deep in the Appalachian Mountains when we heard a baby crying somewhere past the tree line. He immediately jumped up and I grabbed his arm. "Don't. My uncle told me if you hear something like that out here, you don't look or answer. You have to pretend you never heard it." Dean stared at me like I'd lost it, but he sat back down. I didn't tell him that my uncle also said the ones who don't listen never come back the same. The crying got closer, and Dean gripped his knees so hard his knuckles went white. "I can't just sit here. I've got a daughter at home. What if it was her?" I shook my head. "It's not a real baby. Not out here." The crying stopped dead, then started again a few feet closer. Dean stood up and grabbed the flashlight. "I'm going to check. I can't just do nothing." I grabbed his sleeve, but he shook me off, walking straight toward the sound. "Dean, stop." He didn't turn around, and 30 seconds later, my heart sank because I couldn't see his flashlight anymore. I sat frozen at the fire for what felt like an hour before I heard footsteps coming back through the brush. Dean stepped into the firelight, smiling like nothing had happened. "False alarm, man. I guess we were just hearing things." Every word came out flat, like he was talking without breathing at all, and I realized this thing wasn't Dean. I grabbed my knife off the log beside me and backed away from the fire. "Get away from me!" The thing wearing Dean's face tilted its head all the way to one side, farther than a neck should bend, and the sound of the baby's cry came out of its mouth. It lunged at me, then the fire went out. I was sitting next to the fire with... I pulled a metal water bottle from my bag and chucked it at the teacher across the hallway, praying it would hit her. Earlier that day, I'd accidentally dumped my lunch tray on the biggest senior in school, and he told me he'd be waiting for me after school to beat me up, so I was trying to get detention to avoid him. The water bottle cracked Ms. Okafor in her back, and she spun around. "Oh my God!" I braced for screaming and detention, but she shook my hand. "Thank you so much." That popped my hip back into place. I haven't felt it pain-free in years. She walked off smiling, and when I looked over, Brad was looking at me clutching his knuckles. When I saw the principal round the corner, I tried pulling the fire alarm. He looked at my hand on the lever. "Did you set this off?" I said yes, thinking this was definitely detention, but he grabbed my shoulders. "You're a hero, son. The toaster in the teacher's lounge is on fire. We need to evacuate." The whole school instantly spilled onto the campus, and Brad walked over next to me. At 3 o'clock, I'm bringing a knife. My hands shook in fear and frustration because how hard was it to get detention? We started walking back inside because the building was safe, and that's when I stuck my leg out. My teacher face planted in front of our whole class, then looked right at me. "Extra homework!" I grabbed my head and threw my arms in the air. "Can I please have detention instead?" But she crossed her arms. "No, Brad wants to whoop your ah, and I'm not gonna stop him because that's what a delinquent like you needs." I stared in disbelief as Brad chuckled behind me. 2 hours later, the bell rang, and I walked to the bike rack, legs shaking. I tried to grab my bike and just hurry off, but Brad turned the corner smiling. He walked straight towards me grinning, and I raised raised my trembling fists, ready to fight. That's when a teacher came sprinting. He stepped in front of Brad. "What did I tell you? You have detention with me today. Let's go." Brad's jaw went tight, and he followed him inside, locking eyes with me the whole way. I watched Brad sit down in detention, and my stomach went cold. If my plan to get detention worked, I'd be locked in with Brad right now. I pulled a metal water bottle. I was in a boxing ring when a right hand slammed into my face and put me flat on the canvas. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard the announcer scream, "Tonight's winner gets 50 grand on the spot in cash." I immediately tried to push myself back up and reminded myself that my wife was in a hospital bed waiting for me. The only way I could save her was by winning this 50 grand boxing match. That's when the champ who'd just knocked me down screamed, "Watch this," and replayed his punch for the crowd, and I froze. His left shoulder would dip right before the right hand came out. He'd just shown me how his best punch starts, so I bit down on my mouth guard and climbed up before the count hit 10. He saw me stand up and immediately rushed over, pinning me in the corner. Every punch that hit my face made the lights flash white. I covered up and watched for that left shoulder, but he just picked me apart with jabs, saving the big one for the cameras. My legs went to jelly, my right eye swelled shut, so the ref grabbed my gloves and asked, "Can you go on?" But a stopped fight would pay nothing, so I shoved his hands off and yelled, "I can do this all day." The bell rang, and my cornerman dragged me onto the stool. He had his phone pressed to his ear, but one look at his white face told me it was bad. "The hospital said your wife's condition got worse. They're prepping her tonight, but they need the money before they operate." The crowd noise dropped out of my ears, and my mind just went blank. I pushed off the stool before the break even ended. Across the ring, the champ spread his arms to the whole arena. "This is the last round this man ever fights." He was right. He rushed over and rocked me with a combo, and the whole arena came up on their feet. I could barely see, but I kept my good eye locked on his left shoulder. He turned to the cameras and wound up that same right hand for the highlight reel, and that's when the shoulder dipped. I ducked under it with everything I had left and landed my counter clean on his chin. He dropped like a sack of potatoes. The ref counted him out while I held myself up on the ropes, and the announcer grabbed my arm yelling, "He wins! 50 grand cash on the spot!" I grabbed the stack of cash and climbed through the ropes, and behind me, my cornerman was yelling into his phone, "Tell her he's on his way." My wife made a full recovery, but the first thing she did when she woke up was ban me from ever boxing again. My friends and I were having a beach bonfire for my birthday when red and blue lights flashed and a cop ATV pulled up. "Party's over. Clear out, now!" He kicked sand all over us, and everyone started packing up, but my drunk friend Danny shoved the cop in the chest. "Piss off! You're not ruining my boy's birthday!" Everyone froze, and the cop reached for his belt. "You just put your hands on an officer, son. Big mistake." But I stared in horror, because Danny never knew when to quit, and this was about to get crazy. The cop yanked out his handcuffs and grabbed Danny's wrist. "You're under arrest," but Danny hit him with some drunk jujitsu move and smacked the cuffs out of his hands. "Nah, bruh, you should be arrested for being a party pooper." The cop's eyes went wide, then he grabbed his radio. "Requesting backup," he pointed at all of us. "Everyone here is coming to the station tonight, including the birthday boy." My heart sank, and everyone panicked, but Danny just grinned. "Oh yeah? How you gonna get us there?" The cop scratched his head, confused, until Danny snatched the ATV keys right off his belt, hopped on, and floored it down the beach. "Try to catch me, boy!" The cop sprinted after him as we all chased behind. "That's a felony! You're going to prison!" I wanted to die because this was embarrassing, until Danny swerved, almost hitting a screaming woman on the sand, and drove the ATV straight into the crashing waves. He vanished under the water, and everyone gasped because I was sure he'd either drowned or is getting life in prison. But then I saw Danny burst out of the massive waves, gasping. The woman he'd almost hit was screaming and pointing at the water. "My son is drowning, officer, help him!" Then Danny came up carrying a limp little boy, coughing but alive. Everyone was stunned because he did something no sober person would do. Just then, 3 cop cars pulled up as he laid the kid in his sobbing mother's arms. She angrily pointed at the cop. "That guy saved my baby, and he's not even a real cop. You just stood there. What kind of cop are you?" The other officers shook their heads and told him to go to the station. Danny put his hand on my shoulder. "Happy birthday, bro." Then he collapsed face first into the sand. My friends and I were having a beach bonfire for my birthday when red and blue lights flashed and a cop ATV. I was mid-set on the bench press with my service dog Rex beside me when a woman yanked my earbuds out. "Get that mud out of here. This is a gym, not a dog pound." I racked
A mud? Dogs are not mud.
the bar and snatched my earbuds back. He's a service dog. I'm a vet. He helps with my PTSD. Right then, a rack of weights slammed down, and the bang sent me straight back to the war. But Rex leaned into my side until I could breathe again. She laughed. Nice try. PTSD isn't real, and I'm allergic to dogs, so it can't be here. But I could tell she was lying, and I wasn't going to let her take him. I picked up the bar hoping she'd go away, but instead she waved down a staff member and pointed at Rex. That dog is a health violation, and I'm allergic. She fake coughed. Get it out! The miserable employee rolled his eye.
Sorry, guys. My cat's right next to me. Hey, Judy.
Sir, we've had a complaint. The dog needs to go outside. I stood up fast. No.
Anybody else supposed to kick the girl out?
He's a federally protected service animal, you can't. But heavy plates crashed onto the gym floor, and the war memories came back. My hands shaking, my breath tightening. I knew if they took Rex, I'd have a panic attack right there. But before the employee could even move, she snatched Rex's leash herself. Don't worry, I'll tie this mutt to a pole outside. The employee just shrugged and walked off, and as more weights banged around me, the war roared louder, my legs turning to stone. I reached for Rex, but he was already being dragged toward the door, and I couldn't move to save him. The gunfire in my head roared, and I collapsed, my vision blurring as I screamed. But from across the gym, Rex saw me hit the floor, and he yanked the leash so hard he knocked the woman flat, dragging her halfway to me before landing on my chest. His weight pressed down until the gunfire faded, and the room came back. The manager stormed out. What is going on here? The woman scrambled up. That dog attacked me. I'm allergic. He glanced at Rex, calmly lying on me. Funny, you're not sneezing. Then he turned to the employee. You can't read the giant service dog on his vest? You're done. And to her, you're banned. As she stormed off, Rex licked my cheek, and I finally finished my set.
Okay, guys, bye.
I was mid-